Another ulterior motive I have to learn here. It's not ulterior, it's actually direct. It's because I didn't have Marv either tonight, but I ain't stopping at 10:15 if we're here fall behind. Tough on you and tough on me. Okay. Pamatznina, we're at Daf Nun Daled and Beis. Technically speaking, I guess we should start with the Mishnah to be more helpful, even though we're already starting more last week. Kasav Laneder, V'shvua Ein Li Alayich. If you wrote Neder and Shvua, I renounce all rights of Neder and Shvua upon you. Now, this is talking about a husband who appointed his wife, let's say, to run his store, or to be in charge of his property. She delegated her actual responsibility of this sort. And he renounced all rights for normally you're an employer or you're a bala boss who delegates, so you can have your employee or your shomer take shvuas, right? Oaths that they did everything correctly. So Kosvay wrote to Neder Shvua Ein Li Alayich, I have no rights to make her take an oath. Ein Li Yochel Lashbia. You can't make her take an oath. Ava Mashbia Seyorshim. But if she has heirs who took over her job after her death, then the husband can make them to take oaths. That's a b'ayim b'shusa. If she sells her rights to other people, so then he can make those people take oaths. Shavua Ein Li Alayich, v'lo al yoshayich, v'al b'ayim b'shusech. I renounce rights on all of them to allow any of them to cause any of them to take a shavua. When he can't make her take an oath. Lo sa, not her, v'lo Yerushalmi, nor her heirs, v'lo zabayim b'shusa, nor those who come instead of her. Abu Yoshim, but his heirs can to make her take an oath. That's Yerushalmi, or her heirs, that's zabayim b'shusa, those who take her place by buying her business, whatever the case may be. Rabbi Yonah, Rabbi Yonah is going to be very important. We'll come back to them, as a matter of fact, on Nun Hey Madalv in some detail. Rabbi Yonah, Rabbi Yonah, they both said, Lo sof Torah v'nechosim she'ishtalto ben b'chai bala. That which he exempt from Shvu is not just property, which she was given governance over in her husband's lifetime. If you v'nechosim she'ishtalto ben l'achar v'zabal, even property she's given governance over after her husband's death, the heirs are not allowed to cause her to take a shvua. He renounced that. And he renounced it even for property which she takes hold of after his death. Now the Gemara is going to discuss this. As I said, what are we talking about? What kind of property? When? Surely when he gives the p'tur, it's only during his lifetime. Well, after his death, it's a new ball game. So that's when I have to see what exactly the parameters are. But not now. We'll come back to that after the next Mishnah. Talmud, we learned over there. Again, very interesting discussion. I rent, this is actually the parallel discussions in the Bavli. Not here, somebody who borrows rents an animal, a cow, from his pal. And he lends it to somebody else with permission. Okay? So he rented and then he lent it out. And the animal died in a normal death. So he's got to take an oath that the animal died its normal way, and he's off the hook. Shoel, the borrower, it wasn't Mesa Machmas Alocha. Shoel is potter if he dies because of the work. But the Shoel, Yerushalmi Kesuvos, he pays the renter, from whom he borrowed. So who comes out ahead here, obviously? The renter, right? Because the renter is exempt from paying the owner, but the borrower must pay the renter. Okay? That's the way it goes. Unfair, but that's the way it is.
Well, the renter paid rent.
Right, but he didn't pay the full value. He just paid rent. Okay? Rabbi Hillel B'Shem said, as I said before, must see where he got permission to rent unto others. The time Rabbi Chia came in also in Rabbi Chia taught us a price of disrespect. And a borrower is not allowed to lend unto others, nor a renter to rent unto others. V'lo shor rashai laskir, nor may a borrower rent unto others. V'lo socher rashai lashil, nor may a renter lend to others. V'lo mishuhufkan etzlo, nor may a person who is given object for safekeeping, rashai lafkid etzach, give to another person safekeeping. Elekei notlu reshus me'abaylim. Unless everybody's got permission from the owner. The first people in line, right? Anybody who changes the manner of the which they're authorized to watch with safekeep without the owner's consent, chayavin, they're chayav. Says more. Wait a minute. It says kulam sheshinu because they changed. Shoel, I feel lo shino chayav. Isn't the shoel chayav even if he wasn't mishane? Shoel's always chayav for everything. He's the loser in the deal, right? Because it's a borrower, he's chayav for everything which possibly can occur. So what do you mean? Because he's mishanek, because he changed and didn't do what he was authorized to do. No matter what, he's chayav. Ella begins to think because it says, mat neshoyim rechin. The reason why it says it here, that even shoyel, is because we have a halacha that a shoyim rechinam can make a condition liospatim in a shvur. Normally, you can make a shoyim rechinam take a shvur that he wasn't Poisheya, that he wasn't criminally negligent. You can make it tonight. I'm only accepting the Shmira al Menas on the condition they don't make it take a shvur. And, here's the crux, if I show Elios Potim in the Shalom, a shoel can make a condition saying, I'm only taking the shale on the condition that you exempt me from paying under XYZ circumstances. So it's coming to tell here, even though a shoel made a condition that he should be exempt, it's only if he kept the terms of his shmira. But he gave it to somebody else instead of keeping himself, so he's chayav. Okay? So a shoel who gave it to somebody else without asking permission, even though he has exempted himself personally from liability, but since here what he did is not himself, but rather he gave it to somebody else, so then he's still chayav unless the Baal Bayis gave him explicit position to give the permission to give it to somebody else. Okay? Period. Now, what did the Baal Bas, the owner, had a renter who rented it out, to whom he rented it out, and the renter, with permission, loaned it out to somebody else. And now the animal got damaged, or where have you been?
How'd you get his?
And now the animal is dead. Something happened to it, right? So as he said before, the borrower.
Is it true?
Yeah, you can sit on it. It's a table officially, but you can sit on it. I don't think it'll take. These things are very heavy and sturdy.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, the Bikesh slash BSS Shoel, the lender, not the, let's call it the owner. He wanted to make the borrower take an oath. In other words, he wanted to skip the middle step. Even though he knows he can't get his money back, but he wants to try and extract an oath to make sure that the borrower wasn't negligent or didn't do anything wrong. So can he do it? The Shemina made a it's here from here. Kosav from our Mishnah. This is why this is brought down here. Kosav, he wrote to a woman, Neder ushvu ainli alayich, I can't make you take an oath or a vow. Einu yochel ashbiyah. You cannot make her take an oath now. Avo mashbiyah is your share, but you can cause her heirs and those who come instead of her to take a shvuah. So that teaches us that even though you exempt a specific person, so just here the tenant, the renter himself is exempt, but he could skip and go down the line and go to by a woman, even you exempted her yours, as we found by a woman, that even you exempted her, you make her heirs or those who take her place take her shvuah. Okay? Hadayafa minahi, vayafa minadar, we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines from the bottom. Okay, that case learns from our case, and our case learns from that case. Okay, Hadoyafa minahi means, even though that normally means our case learns from that case, here means that case learns from our case. She'im bikesh lashbias hashoel. Actually, not yet. This will be clear. She'im bikesh lashbias hashoel. If you want to cause the borrower to take a shvur, even though that's skipping a step because you rented it out to X, and X you rented out to X, and X loaned it out to Y. Nevertheless, you can make Y take a shvur, right? As you just said. In that case, is learned out from our case. Meaning our case is learned out from that case. That's where we switch tenses. And here we learn, if you want to make the woman take a shvur, it says shalom mashbia, but it should be shu mashbia. Meaning that in a case where you gave your wife discretion to give the thing you're giving over into her hands to somebody else, but you didn't exempt her from a shvur. You came to her and said, you have permission, you're going to be my chancellor of the exchequer, you're in charge of my property. You can give it to anybody you want. But if she does, that's not automatic exemption from a shvur. Just like over there by shomer. Even if you gave permission, you would still cause somebody to take a shvur. So too here the same thing. Okay? Rabbi Chia said, Lo tzurcha meila fahiminato. You don't have to learn that, our case from that case. Because that's obvious. Umar tzurcha telef hayim. What's the case which I have to learn from that case? The case of a shomer giving to another shomer. What do I have to extrapolate from there? Like that which Rabbi said, never Rabbi Yanai. For who should nosan lo reshus la'ashil. That only the only time a guy who rented out can give to another guy as a loan and still be exempt is if the original owner gave him permission to do so. So to here, the husband must give his wife permission, that her children should be apotropsim, otherwise she has no right to give it further, right? It has to be with permission. Rabbi Yosef said, now technically what this means is that a tenant, a renter, has to pay for the cow as long as he borrows it, right? Now that seems to be obvious, though. As long as you rent the cow, you got to pay for it, right? So the Shai wants to change it to, and I think he's right. Wants to change it to Tzarech Laoslo Pora Kozman Shiskuretzlo. And you were talking now about the idiot factor, but about the Shlemazel factor. Your cow died. You Ruvain. Now let's take Hertz. Hertz rent the cow, right? Hertz rented out a cow to Ruvain. Ruvain then loaned the cow to Shimon. The cow dies. Ruvain goes to Hertz and he says, listen, Hertz, I paid you for rental. You need to provide me with a cow. So what's happening here is that Ruvain gets the cow from Hertz and can use it at the same time that Shimon has to pay him for having in his possession the cow which he borrowed from Ruvain died. Okay? So Ruvain gets the best of both worlds. He rented from Hertz, so Hertz has to provide him with a cow. The cow he rented from Hertz to begin with died in the hands of Shimon. Shimon, to whom he loaned it, has to pay him. So now he'll have his cow and eat it too. Not literally. He'll get a cow from Hertz, and he'll get his money from Shimon. Okay?
And that's up to Hertz's discretion whether he wants to.
No, he paid rent.
So he's forced to?
Hertz got it, yeah, that's the obligation, yeah.
It's like if a house burns down, they got the landlord has to.
That's a Ma'aseh Jehoiah that I rented a car from Avis
Yeah.
in New York. The car was stolen.
Right.
And I went back to Avis
Right.
and asked for another car.
And they gave it to you.
They didn't want to give me one.
They didn't want to give it to you?
No, because I was a bad risk.
So what do they do? But then they have it.
I had to appeal to the manager, and it took me over half a day to get finally the manager to give me, let me have another car. But I was a bad risk because I had a stolen car.
But I think they have to give it to you if you have a rental. What do you say, lawyer?
It's their discretion.
No?
It's New York.
The rental's on that object.
It's on that object, it's not on a car?
Initially, you don't sign a lease for you really sign
Generic car.
like a generic car.
It's for
Yeah.
At the time of really the contract's in effect, it's a specific car to a specific person, and that's it.
Okay. I don't think it's that way in halacha, as we see here. Please quite the shai Torah Sitzrol Girsa. That's me. So, moving right along. Rabbi Zir shal Rabbi Avuna. Rabbi Zir asked Rabbi Avuna the following question. Shalu ha'baylim Mesa. This is another very sad case. Let's say Hertz. Hertz rented the car out to Ruvain. I mean, rented it could be a car too. But it actually has to be a cow, as you will see. Rent out the car to Ruvain. Then he said, listen, can I borrow it back from you? So, Hertz said, can I borrow it back from you? So Ruvain said, sure. Umesa. Then it died. So what happens then?
Hertz has to pay Ruben.
Hertz got to pay Ruvain. That's right, because he borrowed from him, right? So he's got to pay Ruvain, right? Amar Lei, so he said, Keiran Amrin, do we say this, Afilu Ochlin, Achlu, even if what about if Hertz ate the cow? What about in that case? So Amar Rav Yosef, I don't remember this at all from the Bible, so I assume it's not there. Amar Rav Yosef, no. Ochlu Shalohen Ochlu. If they eat the cow, it's theirs. Now, the Ridbaz has a beautiful explanation of this. He says, if the cow dies, you're chayiv to pay because you're a shoel, and a shoel is chayiv to pay in case of death. So Hertz borrowed back his cow from Ruvain. He's got to pay Ruvain for the cow that he borrowed, which is really his cow. That's it. That's tragic, but that's the way it is. However, if he ate it, says the Ridbaz, he's not a shoel anymore. He's a goslin. But that's paradoxical. You can't steal your own cow. So that's why he's potter. Okay? So if he eats it, he's potter because then he's a goslin. And a goslin, he can't steal his own thing. So in that case, he's potter. But if it died on his hands, he never stole it, so he remains a show. In that case, he's chayiv to pay. That's an amazing distinction. But it is logical. Makes sense. Okay?
Wisconsin doesn't get to pay alcohol chamesh or...
Yeah, you would have to, but it's but that's at that point the paradox of not being able to steal your own thing stops that possibility. Yeah, he says I ate it, right. On Rabbi Zira Boiku Rabbi Yasi. Rabbi Zira asked for Rabbi Yasa, Hey Chavtin Uvda, what do we do now? Now in the case we just mentioned, but rather, what's halach by Shomer Shemosa l'Shomer? Somebody said, Trey Kokol Kabel Arba. Below Avdinuva, we have 2 Amaroim against 4. I don't think we paskin that Shomer Shemosa l'Shomer, the first Shomer is chayv. This is where you gave Shomer gave to another Shomer without permission. You didn't have permission to do so. So in that case, the 4 Amaroim Tanoim Mus Amaroim who say the initial Shomer is chayv. 2 Amaroim who say the Shomer received it as chayv, so we pass my 4 over 2. Amalei said no. Trey kol kavel train. It's 2 opposite 2 because 2 of the 4 are students of the other 2. Rabbi Lezer Tamir Rabbi Chia Ruba, Lezer student Rabbi Chia the Great, and Rabbi Yochanan Tamir Rabbi Yanai. So it's really the students don't count separate opinions. So it's really 2 against 2, and the more here doesn't say how we pass it. Halach above. Ner Shvuah, the husband says, the right to make you take an oath, ainly, I don't have loli or shy, nor do my heirs have against you. Below the bar, or anybody I would sell my rights to. Olaich v'yoshach, not on you, not on your heirs, not people who come, who you buy out your rights. He can't make her take an oath. Lo who, not he, lo Yoshi, not his heirs, lo Barshusa, nor others that get his to take over his rights. Lo Sa, not her, lo Yasher, nor her heirs, lo Sa Barshusa, nor those that take over her rights. Now, new issue. She went from her husband's grave to her father's house. She went back to her mother's house. Im lo asta apotropia. If during the interim period after the death she had not done anything with the property as guardian of the property, so the heirs have no right to make her take a shvur. We must apotropia. If, however, after death she did something with the property, they make her take an oath on that which came after the death. Not that which came before the death. Rabbi said, if she did her guardianship, her stewardship, during her husband's lifetime, then she's exempt. I must stop a trouble. But if she did her stewardship after her husband died, the heirs make her take an oath and do masnisa. And that's what the Mishnah says here. She didn't do any stewardship after her husband's death. The heirs can't make her take a shvua. If she did a stewardship after her husband's death, the heirs make her take a vow on that which happened after the death. Very much not which happened before the death. What's before? Says more, I want to qualify something. And this goes back to what they said. Rabbi Yoina said, this is Rabbi Yoina again, Rabbi Yoina said after the previous Mishnah, at the beginning of Halacha, hey, you know what after death means? It doesn't mean literally after death. Right after the death, she can still deal with the property and be exempt from a shvur until the time of burial. The time of burial seals it, because until then, she's still involved in the property because she has to close the affairs. So only after the time of burial, that's when, if she continues to do stewardship, then the heirs can make her take an oath. Okay? So that's what he says here. Ezu Shava, that she's still exempt, even Mishas Misa Va'ad Shas Kvura. Even from the time of death until the time of burial. She's still exempt in that period. Rabbi Yossi said, no. Even if she made stewardship, she was in charge. After her husband died, the heirs cannot make her take an oath. That's a continuation of her prior stewardship. So they can't make her take an oath because their father exempted her from taking an oath. Says the Gemara, what did we learn? 1 second, how can you say it? Explicitly contradicts our Mishnah. Does our Mishnah say only if she didn't do any stewardship after that, so the heirs can make her take an oath. However, he must stop if she did the stewardship after her husband's death, they can only make her take a shvur that which happened after that. You can't make her take a shvur in the past, but now they can. So pasar lo al rosha. So they said Rabbi Yossi is going on the Reisha. He's going the previous Mishnah, that where he said that he didn't there it said that he accepted to exempt her from any shvur, but he never accepted upon his heirs. In Allah Chavav, he exempts not just himself, says, I can't make you take a shvur, but even my heirs can't make you take a shvur. In Allah Chavav, he just said, I can't make you take a shvur, but my heirs might be able to make you take a shvur. So Rabbi Yossi says, who says that even if she did apotropia after her husband's death, the heirs can't make her take an oath, so that means he himself can't make her taking oath even after Trump. He himself can't make her take an oath on that which happens. Actually, now I think about it, obviously he can't. He's dead. No, it's the heirs. It's the heirs. Look back, 5 lines up. Gar stewardship after husband's death, so the heirs can't make her take an oath. Aki says, "What he lost up, but Trumpus any Yoshim Mashbimosa, he must stop, but Trumpus Yoshim Mashbimosa." We said that the heirs can make her take an oath. Lossy love, vain lossy love on future Yoshminosa Lashavar, not in the past. So he says that's where can the heirs make her take an oath? Where on what happened after her husband's death? Where in the case of Halacha, where only the deceased husband said, "I renounce the right to make her take an oath." But of course, then the other heirs can make her take an oath, right? The heirs can make her take an oath because he renounced, the husband renounced the right, but he didn't make a stipulation that all his heirs should renounce the right. So therefore, in that case, obviously the heirs can make her take an oath. When can't the heirs let her take an oath or make her take an oath? In our Mishnah, a case where the husband repudiated the right, even not just for himself, but also for his heirs subsequent to himself. Okay, so it says more.
Can he really do that? Can he repudiate the right for his
he can.
He
can.
Other people?
Yeah, because they all come from his authority. Because he's in charge of the state now. Vina Rosha. So wait a minute. If it's going on the first Mishnah, it's a Resha, it's a Kasha also. Because we said Kato, we said back then, Rabbi Yoina, Rabbi Yosef Tarvayin, they both said Loso Tarvin Nechosim Shenish L'Tor B'hem B'chayim Balo. If he exempts her not just on property during her lifetime. Alfil Nechosim Shenishtalta B'hem Lachar Mises Habal. Even property which comes after her husband's death, Eina Yoshim Hashpimo. So the heirs can't make her take an oath. If he exempted himself, so on property which he stewards even after his death, they can't make her take an oath. So what's Rabbi Yosef saying? On property afterwards, they can't take an oath. So the answer is obvious. Pasuk, he says, "Mishas misa sham masa shas kavura." That which the heirs can't make her take an oath, where the husband exempted only himself. The heirs still can't make her take an oath until the grave, till the burial. After that, the heirs can make her take an oath, unless it's like our Mishnah, where the husband explicitly made a stipulation that his heirs would not be able to make her take an oath either. The Mar Rabbi Avov, Rabbi Yochanan, like Rabbi Avov saying, Rabbi Yochanan, Mishas Kfura, V'Achas Misa, Achas Kfura, and Yoshmash B'Imosa. From the time of death until the time of burial, the heirs have no right to make her take a shvur. Tani Bar Kapura, why is that? You shouldn't leave the corpse lying around and go back home. Okay? It wasn't that much of a loving relationship there. So we're afraid that you would just leave the corpse around and go back home. Okay, new issue. Allah Zayin. Hapogemes Kesuvos, somebody who damages her, a woman who damages her own Kesuva, that's actually going to be explained Allah Ches, what that means. Lo Tifra El B'Keshuvah, she can only she can only redeem her Kesuva if she takes an oath, the rest of her Kesuva. Now, Pogemes Kesuvos, I'll tell you what it is, because otherwise we won't understand the Gemara. Pogemes Kesuvos means a woman confesses or allows that she actually collected already part of her Kesuva. Not the whole thing, but part of it she already collected. That's Pogemes. Okay? She damages her Kesuva. She says, even though it says $200, I already collected $100. Okay? So, Pogemes Kesuvasa, Lotifra El B'Shu, she may not collect the rest of her Kesuva unless she takes a shvur. If similarly, if one witness testifies that the shvur that the Kesuva already been paid up, she can deny and battle this witness, but she's got to take a shvur on it, right? If she wants to collect from property which is under lien to somebody else, or sold to somebody else. Property which belongs to the to orphans. She has to make a shvua. Her ex-husband went to Chutzlards and she wants to get a ksuva. She also needs to have a shvua as well. Okay, and all as well. Now,
what's the shiur that the husband left?
no, the shvua is even though her husband's not around, he owes me money. Even though he's not around to defend himself, so therefore we make a take a shvua. All right, Rabbi said, "Ain't shvuas Torah yodu lehem." It's like a shvua d'oraisa, which they make and take a shvua b'nikitas chayfetz, holding on to an object and saying, I do solemnly swear, not just to take an oath in court without holding on to an object. They made it severe. Even though d'oraisa, there's no such thing as somebody takes a shvua and collects. All shvuas d'oraisa are shvuas to retain. The oaths that I shouldn't have to pay or shouldn't have to release. There's a shvua to collect. She's taking a shvua to collect the ksuva. Nonetheless, they made it like a shvua d'oraisa. Now, ask more a very interesting technical question. Oh, lumdish question, it says. Sorry. Hey, wait a minute. The ksuva lo huchzikar now it should be biyoda. Because a ksuva, she's not. It's already hers. Why should she take a shvua? She's got a star. Since when does somebody have a star? A document have to take a shvua. It's as if she's holding on to call home at likvos kagobli dami. It's as if she already collected it, right? So why should she have to take a shvua? So it says it's a brilliant answer. Listen to this. El kamisha gavas. You're right. It's as if she collected. Mikan so therefore, on the contrary, it's as if it should be who, not vehu. Who kitova. It's as if he's demanding. Im ashtar, the im here is a little bit superfluous. I'm not sure exactly if it should be there or not. You know, in the Megillah it says, Amar im hasem ra im hasefer. So there I think also it's like im ashtar means, he says, about the shtar, shemasayim of 200, which is the ksuva, paro, it's redeemed already. In other words, it's as if she collected. So what does he really say? He's trying to extricate money from her. So I say, hey, you're holding on ksuva, which is $200 worth of paper. You owe it to me. Give me back the paper and my $200, which are adhering to that paper, not explicitly, not explicitly, but implicitly. Give it back to me. And she says, no, I only owe you 100 because 100. She in essence says $100 I already received, which means you only owe me $100. Which means it's as if she's being moide b'miktsas, as if she's conceding part of the claim, saying you talk only, even though the document says. So that's why it's not. Even though ksuva is like as if it's collected. But in this case, it's like moed b'miktsas because of that reason. Because it's as if the paper she's holding is worth $200, and he wants that $200 from her back, that paper. And she says, "Well, 100 of these bucks, you're right, they're coming to you, meaning because you only owe me $100 because you already paid." So she's like a moed b'miktsas. So that's like a chiyuv d'oraisa, and that's why we made her take a shvua. Even though it's not a real chiyuv d'oraisa, because it's not really as if she's moed b'miktsas. Moed b'miktsas is when I owe you money. But here, since it's as if she already collected the ksuba, it's as if she owes half of the ksuba back to her husband. And that's why we made her take a shvua similar to shvua d'oraisa. Okay? Says the Maritani, we learned. Hapogamus, who takes a shvua? Somebody who says part of her ksuba is already paid. The law pocheses ksuvas, but not somebody who diminishes her ksuba. What's the difference? What's a pocheses? Ketzar oisa ksuvas masayim. If her ksuva says 200, v'yomeres money, she doesn't say I already got 100. She says no, the ksuva was we wrote 200 because we made a mistake on the chuppah when we wrote the ksuva, but you really only owe me 100. Like as if she says I was really not a besula, I was a beula. So then that's pocheses. Pogamis, where she says she was owed 200, but she already got 100. Poches is where she says she was never owed 200. She was always owed 100 to begin with. So Pogamis, to collect the other 100, she's got to make a shvua. Poches, she doesn't have to make a shvua. Says the Gemara, Ma ben pogemes, ma ben pocheses. What's the difference? Amrei Echin said, pogemes, by pogemes, po maso mata bin sign. There's some wheelings and dealings. In other words, she says that she got, and she didn't get all of it. But there was already some types of deals made in which she made a partial collection. Whereas Pocheses, by the woman who says her ksuva was never worth more than 100, lo ba masu masa beinotayim. There's not yet been any cases or any discussion between the two of them, and therefore we give more credibility to her even without a shvua. Okay? Rabbi Yirmiyah asks, K'modat Omer Tamon, Eid Echad Midashi Prua, when one witness testifies the ksuva is already paid up, she wants to collect anyway, she's got to take a shvua. With the kavasa, so too, let's say the same thing, Eid Echad Midashi Pchusa. If one witness testifies that the ksuva should have been diminished by $100. In other words, not that it was paid, but it really was only $100 ksuva, not a $200 ksuva. No tivchosel b'shvua. So, 1 second. It's the other way around. Sorry. Minor mistake. He says, right, we again, right here, but just like I said there, if one witness testifies that ksuva is already paid, if she wants to collect, she's got to make a shvua. Let's say when this comes and says, hey, Yankel and Sarah, when they got married, they didn't get 200 in the ksuva. What did they write in the ksuva? $100. So she's not the pocheses, but the aid is poches. The aid diminishes the value of the ksuva, so that should be enough to require her to take a shvua, right? Because already you have one witness who says she's not owed what she claims to be owed. So it says more no. Rabbi Yosef said, when one witness testifies that the ksuva is pchusa, we don't believe him. You know why? Because he's kaid echad maki shain. He's like one witness denying two witnesses. Who are the two witnesses? Who are the two witnesses is going up against? The two witnesses on the star. The witness on the star testified that the ksuva is $200. He's one witness who says the ksuva is only $100. We don't accept him, right? Or if the one aide says she was poigem her ksuba, she collected part of it. He's not contradicting the two witnesses on the ksuva, saying they're avara. Once upon a time it was $200, and she already collected $100. Then the witness generates a chiyuv shvua. But if the one witness says, no, the ksuva is not supposed to be read as written, then he goes up against the two witnesses, and we don't listen to what he has to say. Okay? Tani, we learned, you have an heir whose father, before he died, said, you know what, I have a document outstanding, a bill of loan outstanding against Shmerel for $500, but he paid me $100. So father admitted that. So what happens now? And then the father died, of course. The son poisoned him for admitting that. So now, can the son collect all $500? No. Can he even collect the $400 without taking a shvua? No. He's got to take a shvua, it would seem, right? Because he's, how many was telling the truth? Maybe his father, just like his father got $100, maybe his father got another $100 another time, right? So it says the Gemara, that's the tie. No, he can collect without a shvua. In this manner, the son's power is superior to the father's power. The father, the son collects that shvua, and the father wouldn't have needed to take a shvua. Rabbi says, other shvuas he's got to take. He doesn't have to take the shvua. You owe us $400. That's shvua he doesn't take. But he has to take the shvua, the standard shvua which heirs have to take. What are those? Abba. Our father did not give us any commands concerning the transaction. B. Abba. Our father didn't say anything to us about this transaction. C. Found no documentation among the documents of our father that this document was ever paid up. Now says the Gemara, a gewaltige Yerushalmi Zushta. We haven't had one of these in a while. Says Gemara, Rabbi Yoshi asks a question. It seems that this brisa, which says that the kid collects the document without taking an oath, it's like Beis Shammai. The Beis Shammai says a soita. Noitelas ksuvos of a loy shoita. Now let's talk about a soita. Soita is a woman, of course, who's supposed to drink the bitter waters, right? If she doesn't drink the bitter waters, she doesn't get a ksuva. She gets divorced and she doesn't get a ksuva, because we assume that she was mizan. If she does drink the water, she dies, right? So let's say, in this case, just before she drank the bitter waters, under mysterious circumstances and straightforward circumstances, her husband dropped dead. Okay, so she's not going to drink anymore. Does she get the ksuva? So Beis Shammai says she gets the ksuva v'lo shois, and she doesn't drink. Beis Hillel argues. Beis Hillel says since she didn't drink, she doesn't get the ksuva. Had she drunk and come out with flying colors, she would get the ksuva. Because, I mean, she's innocent, but she didn't drink. In this case, she doesn't get the ksuva. So, but Beis Shammai says, if the husband's not around to make her drink, so then she gets the ksuva, right? So, because it says, the husband has to bring his wife, right? So it seems that where something has not clarified, the woman gets her ksuva without drinking the waters, right? Look at drinking the waters as a shvuah, right? The same thing here. Seems like the opinion which holds that the son gets the proper the whatever it says in IU without his having to take a shvuah is exactly like Beis Shammai, not like Beis Hillel. Because like Beis Hillel, just like there, you can't collect the ksuva because can't drink. She can't get the ksuva because she couldn't drink the waters. So here, the kid should not be able to collect the outstanding loan because he can't take a shvuah. Of course, he can't take a shvuah because only the father can take a shvuah. Okay, it says no. Rabbi Yossi tam on bed time of the Beis Shammai. There, the Noah Beis Shammai says, what do they say? Because they say, Havil Bali Vani Shoise. Bring me my husband and I'll drink. What do you want to buy my ksuva? I'm willing to drink. Bring me husband to drink. So what if he was poisoned? I didn't poison him. But here, the truth is, if her father, this father had a star, he shouldn't take a shvuah himself. Midoraisa. He has a star. If he's Michael $100 by saying, "You pay me $100 in the star," that's his own magnanimity. We shouldn't penalize him for that, right? Bedinu, he didn't have to take a shvuah off, but Rabbanan imposed the shvuah, right? To takora tiknu bo shishava. They made a takora that nevertheless a shvuah should follow in that case. Bo tiknu, this takora, this chumrah they made with him, bivno lo tiknu. Okay? By his kid, they never made such a takora. Came at your mace once he dies, and Mata b'nadiv din tayro, and he gave his kid the status of the doraisa, meaning no shvuah necessary, the kid collects. Now, however, what about Nischayim of Shvuah Beis? What if it actually got to court? And Beis said to the father, "Hey, Yankel, you got to take a shvuah." And then he dropped dead, right? Dropped dead. So then he died. In that case, the son can't collect, because the father was already chayav shvuah based in. If the father was in our status where basically would have been mechayiv shvuah, but they haven't gotten around to locate, had you not told me that, what would you have said? No. Can a parent bequeath the shvuah to his kid? Obviously, the kid can't collect. Rabbi Yovin said, "Taka, it should be atamar." It says atamar, but the Shaitar says it's hachin amarta. It's the same thing. Atamar pogam ovishtar bevestin. We see from here that if a father admits that part of the shtar has been paid in court, and beno gova, his son cannot collect it. Rav Chisda asked, I don't understand. Mamash about the question he asked here, it seems like. He says, begin the holach aviv, begin the holach ilain tarte psiosa, just because his father took 2 steps and went into court. Who mafsid? He loses. The father conceded outside of court that the star was partially paid off. You say the kids can still collect because of no chiv shvua. Just because he went to court, his kids can't collect. It's a good question, but it's never answered. And it sounds like that's in fact the case. If the father was poigim story, admitted part of it was paid up in basin, since that generates a chiv shvua on him, his children are lost because that shvua can't be made by them. On the other hand, if he never got the basin and no chiv shvua is generated against him, so then in that case his kids can collect without a shvua. Okay, let's go on to a new issue. Somebody comes to collect from the property of orphans. You need to take an oath first. We never allow collection to take place from the property of orphans who are not yet sufficiently acquainted with their father's property, unless there's a document outside them with which there's interest. They showing some say out for ksuvas isha. Some say even for the ksuva woman. Why? Why do we collect for the ksuva woman even from the property of the Yerushalmi? Maybe I'm named Zonos because otherwise the meter is ticking on something else. It's like ribbis, because what are they paying the whole time that their husband's wife doesn't collect her ksuva? They're paying mazonos. So therefore it's to their advantage to pay up the ksuva as soon as possible, get rid of mazonos, which is like ribbis. Rabbi said this. I'm explaining next more according to the Ridbas. What are you talking about? We have Allah not brought down here, but brought down elsewhere. Later in Ksuvas. Once a woman demands her Ksuva, she doesn't get mazonos anymore. So the mazonos meter stopped ticking, even without paying up the Ksuva. Because Allah, once a woman demands Ksuva, she loses mazonos. So why do we have to pay up? She's got the worst of both worlds. She won't get mazonos and she won't get her ksuva. Why don't we just say that? Says the Gemara, no. It says, I'll answer you. It's Rabbi Shimon. It's Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Shimon says, when does the mazonos meter stop ticking? Only if she actually collects. But not if she just demands it. So in that case, if she demands her ksuva, we'll give it to her in order to get the mazonos meter stopped. Maikadun says Gemara, what are we pasking? Meaning, according to this, going back actually to Rabbanan, who say that she doesn't get mazonos after she demands the ksuba. So, do we collect the ksuba from the property of Soimim or not? According to Rabbi Shimon, yes, we do, to stop the mazonos meter from ticking. But according to Rabbanan, the mazonos meter stopped anyway. So do we collect the ksuba for her or not? Do you understand the question? Okay. So says Mar, we do anyway. Says Mar, you know why? We want her to have a rich dowry because we want the woman to get remarried. Why do we want to get remarried? For purely selfish reasons, not because of her. As far as we're concerned, let her remain a spinster for the rest of her life. Who cares? But we want other people to marry her. The Gemara does not explain, but I assume it must be because she's living in besides having to provide her with mazonos, which stopped, they also provide her with a house. So they probably want her out of the house. So therefore they pay a ksuva up to her, however she should be rich now, and somebody else should come and marry her in order to get her off our hands. Okay? Even though mazonos stopped. Okay, getting back to the other issue, getting back to when we collect from the Chesed Sermon. The Yerushalmi, some say we collect after Gzeil if there's an outstanding claim that the father was a thief. Or in the Zikin or the father damaged anybody, we collect from the Yisum as well. Rabbi Yosef said, we learned these both in Brises. We Gzeil that we collect from the property of Yisum for Gzeil, Minadav in this case. If the issue was, if they had something which they bore responsibility for, then they have to pay. Now this actually something they bore responsibility means if they had real estate. They have real estate, they have to pay. What are we talking about that real estate that they have to pay what? So now we say it must be referring to Gzela, okay? Because it says if their father left them real estate, they have to pay for any Gzela. It's Gemara in Bava Kama. Says Gemara, when he's talking, how do we have to damage somebody they have to pay? it says this. From this case, it says, any for an Yisrael you only collect from property in the Yisrael from the worst property. What do you collect for Nizakin? For damages? From which type of property do you collect? Any recollection? What property does the Nizak get? Edis, he gets the best. Yeah. Baal Chov gets pain on this. Baal Chov pain on this. Ksuvas Isha, Ziburis. So it says, when you say it only takes Ziburis, so what are we talking about? Can't be talking about Baal Chov. Baal Chov doesn't collect. Baal Chov doesn't, unless it's Rivis, which means it's a goy. Right? Well, Jewish Baal Chov doesn't collect, so it can't be talking about Baal Chov. So it says, when it says you only collect for Ziburis, what's it going on? For Tani, so it must be going, Akini Masnisa must be saying, any from Nilsei Sermon Zokin element is Ziburis. So it says more, okay, fine, that's true, but wait a minute, what about this price? For Tani, Omana Ben Tachos of, says another price, so the son to take his place his father, Hanizokin Shomim Be'idis. Then by Nizokin you pay with Idis. Uba'achov Be'inonis. Uksuvasisha Be'ziburis. Says you pay Idis. So I'm Rabbi Yisrael, how can you pay Idis? So Rabbi Yisrael, very interesting distinction. I don't remember this distinction from the Bavi. Kan be Yosem Gadol, kan be Yosem Cotton. If he's a minor Yosem, then we give consumer protection and he always to pay Ziburis. If he's an adult Yosem, we assume he knew something about his parents' dealings, he has to actually pay. In that case, see this fascinating distinction. Bavi, I think until they know what's going on, they only pay Ziburis. Okay, how about a little bit more? Hapogemes Kesuvos Ketzad. Told you I have to go a little bit late. Hapogemes Kesuvos Ketzad. What is Pogemes Kesuvos? Finally, we get around to discussing it. Hoysuk Kesuvos Elbzuz Kesuvos $1,000. For Amalei Kabal Kesuvos, he says, I paid you. For your Meris Lois Kabal Elamona. You only paid me $100, but $100 you paid. Well, Tivra L'Shush got to take an oth. Similarly, if Eidechon Midashi Pru, what's the case of Eidechon testifies it's Parua? Ketzad. Hoysuk Kesuvos Elbzuz or Kesuvos $1,000. For Amalei, he says, he's Kabal say, I paid you. For your Meris Lois Kabal I didn't get paid. She said, I didn't get paid anything. But Eidechon Midashi Pru, one witness testifies it was paid up. Lo Tivra L'Shvua, she's got to make an oath. Min Chazim Shubanim Ketzad, what's Chazim Shubanim? Machar is the Chazim L'Achem, he sells property to others. V'in Fras Mekulos, and she comes to collect from the customers. Lo Tivra L'Shvua, she has to take an oath. Minich say Yisrael Ketzad, what about from the property of orphans? Mace, he died. V'nich no Chazim Yisrael, and he left his property to the orphans. V'in Fras Yisrael, she's collected from the orphans. Lo Tivra L'Shvua, she has to take an oath. Shlo Lefana Ketzad, what's the case where he's not around? He went to Chutzlaretz, Vini Fraz, and she's collecting. Shlo Lefanav, and he's not around. Lo Tifra Ella, Lo Tifra she has taken oath. Shemer Kozman Shetavas Kesuvasa. Anytime she collects a Kesuva, Yerushalmi Mashbina, so the heirs make her take an oath. And a Tavas Kesuvasa, if she's not collecting Kesuva, she's just staying home and eating Mazonos, and a Yerushalmi Mashbina Mosa. The heirs cannot make her take an oath. Says a couple lines more. Kinim Asis, way to learn Mishnah. But if she collects not in front of him, then lo tifra b'shua, then she has to take a shua. If she collects in front of him and he's around still, then she doesn't take a shua. As for the from the other mishlo panav, what you can collect from a person. Oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Sorry. It's not just referring to a woman, but anybody, not just a woman, generic, any person. Okay, that says to me, really, some people have the gifts of anifrash lo b'fanav, not just a woman, but anybody. So it says more, except for ksuva or mizonos, you collect money from a guy if he's not around, he's not around to defend himself. Rabbi Yirmiyah, yes, tipote b'shtar sharibi sochelos bo. If he has an outstanding loan against him with ribis, if he doesn't, it's to his benefit to have it paid up even though he's not around. So in that case, we pay him for it even though he's not around, as long as that person takes a shvua. Says more, basically, ribis, what? Basically, they help a Jew collect ribis from another Jew. It's like a goy. It's a case where a goy wrote him out, he owes money to a goy. and the goy accepted whatever Beis Din paskin. So there, Beis Din paskins on the goy, take a shvua and we'll collect for you from the guy's property, even though he's not around, in order to that the compound interest would stop right away. Okay, and we're going to bring a case which is similar to this, but we'll have to leave that case for tomorrow.